And hello, everyone. Nytmare here, and this is Whale FM's Fireside Chat with Artists. In this show, we talk about everything and anything art and crypto in the NFT scene with designers and creators alike, otherwise known as non fungible tokens. My guest today is Giant Swan, a Melbourne based artist who skillfully wields modern VR technology to create vivid dreamscapes, sculptures, and surreal experiences. Swan, thank you so much for coming on and speaking with us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me on Nytmare.
Yeah, I just got to give everybody a little bit of a heads up. There's some kind of toddler electric guitar concert going on here, so I'm doing my best to shield the mic, but you may get a little background noise. But it is in the spirit of art, so I guess it's suitable.
It definitely is, mate, and it's super welcome.
Yeah. So, Giant Swan, can you tell us about that name and just give us a little bit about, your background and your journey into art for anyone that doesn't know what exactly you do?
Sure. I'm Giant Swan, a name that I adopted when I was 18, 19, and being a bit of a rebel amongst my friends, disliking music it was definitely me. Uh, I took that name into my art because it was just kind of like an attitude problem almost, and something that I really resonated with as a young person. And then as I got older, I realized how powerful the moment of choosing your own path was. So something I'm really happy that I've stuck with since.
Pretty cool. So, most of the stuff that, if people were to Google you right now would show the amazing stuff you do in VR. And we're going to get into that. But could you just give us a little bit about your background, where you are involved in art when you were younger and this is just a progression, or is this something new that came about?
Yeah, sure. So as a young person, I've always been creative. Um, when I got out of high school, I fell into a normal warehouse job and kind of daydreamed about what I could have done in uni and things like that. And eventually I landed in video game design, specifying in art and 3D modeling and stuff. And I went through that course, and I never really did anything with it. I guess to with the power of hindsight, I kind of feel like I was just doing what I expected to have to do to make art. And I yeah, like once I got out of uni, like there was no like magical job just waiting for me. So I went back to warehouse work and eventually ended up running logistics for a local company here in Australia for 3 or 4 years. In that time, I found VR again, or not again, that was for the first time, and just had a really vivid reaction from my friends when they saw what I was able to make in there. uh, more than more than I'd experienced before with a drawing or maybe some props that I'd made. And yeah, that really spurred me on to learn more about what this emerging tech was and what does it mean for art. Like, oh my goodness, you can walk around this art, this is insane. uh, the excitement kind of put me into grind mode at work, and I bought my own headset and got a PC that could run it. And a few months later, I kind of discover my jam with music and how important moving around VR is. It seems so obvious when you say it out loud like that, but a lot of people get into VR and they don't move. Like they draw from one perspective, and it's all this massive learning curve where you're like breaking your brain to start moving around and stuff. But when I made that connection, I went straight to music, uh, to as a source of inspiration. You come in and you're in this empty room that's endless, and you have an endless amount of material, and you don't have to really worry about physics unless you're prone to falling over. And yeah, I start just I'm posting on Instagram like with my favorite bands and stuff after gigs and things like that. And eventually, one of those bands reach out to me about 3 weeks before a massive festival in Australia, and they invite me to do their background visuals for for their set. They were a headliner at the time, a band called the Smith Street Band, and yeah, man, it was like life just kind of coming up and patting me on the back to go, hey, mate, you need to be doing this for real. Take yourself a bit more seriously. And from that point on, like that job opened up a lot of doors in the Australian music scene, and I worked with some amazing people after that gig, and that was the big push I needed to go out and finally quit my job and start chasing art as a profession.
That's very cool. I know when I was looking at some of the, process videos you have with that series that you've been putting out, kind of giving, everyone a behind the scenes look. When I saw you, working, it was almost like poetic, the motion. It looked like dance. It looked like martial arts or something that just kind of flowed organically. So it's very interesting that you mentioned the music aspect and I guess kind of capturing that vibe.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna hide it. I grew up in the mosh pit, so
Right.
yeah.
So it's it's kind of jumping around here a little bit. It's almost looks like a performance art. I would imagine doing that live when you're at a festival or somewhere where people can see the visualization of what you're doing on a screen, and you're also moving. You got to feed off of that energy from the crowd.
Surreal experience, and definitely, yeah, it's amazing. This performance art aspect of it is something that has been explored by pretty niche art industries in film and on the stage. For me, um, every opportunity to do a physical show usually means that I'm there to interact with people, and it's literally teaching about teaching people that there's a medium there to be enjoyed or to be explored. So when I get to draw in public, it's awesome, man. Like sometimes you just put the headset on, and I go to my little place, and when you take it back off, man, there's like 50 people surrounding you, and they're all just kind of in awe looking at the screen. And then you just kind of hold your hand out and you say, hey, man, do you want to have a look? And you start melting minds one after the other after that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so impressive just what we're looking at here, and I'd love to turn it over to you so you could kind of show us some things in a moment here. But I look at some of this stuff and it's mind blowing, and then I have to remind myself this isn't even the intended medium. This is, a static interpretation of something that's 3D and immersive that you actually go inside of.
That's definitely correct. And as an artist using VR from the earlier days in 2017 and stuff like that, we were forced to ask that question every day. Like we're making stuff in VR, but who can see it? No one, unless you're at my house. And that's it's a good question to have to answer all the time, because in that time it's taught me how to create work for video, how to create work for image, and even physical sculpture now too. It's yeah.
Yeah, no, it's super cool and really innovative stuff. Especially with NFTs kind of pushing the boundaries of AR and VR right now. But just to rewind a little bit, just from a creative process, so everybody understands, can you talk us through the tools that you use and what exactly you're doing?
Sure. So a really quick workflow for VR can look like this: you put a headset on, you jump into VR, maybe Tilt Brush, and Tilt Brush basically gives you a palette hand and a painting hand, and you can basically move around the space that you've designated in your real room, and you can sculpt. It's like Fantasia, where you get to wave your hand around and create shapes and color. From that from that point on, everything that you make is a 3D object. and that means it can be exported and put into other workflows. So you can bring that through Blender and Cinema 4D or Dimension for some fancy rendering if that's what you feel like, or maybe you just want to stay in Tilt Brush and you can bring a camera tool and literally film your work as if you're gliding through the space with a handy cam. Um, you can also export things to make just flat image out of, bring them into things like Photoshop and all sorts of cool little things. Um, there are other programs like Gravity Sketch, which is much more precision based VR tools, which are great for modeling things and much easier to handle how heavy they are because VR created models are by nature really heavy. They're messy and they're not precise. So that blending into traditional workflows can sometimes be a lot of work, but it's all about finding the tool for the job.
Yeah. I can't, when I try to think of the complexity there must be to just be cohesive and not just what's front facing, it seems daunting, but you make it look easy when I watch you in the creative process. Um, and I've seen it alluded to in a lot of different documentation that you like to use movements to create shapes and create colors and uh, then kind of shape your stuff around it. Is it like you're freestyling out there, or do you go in with a set objective and try to work towards it?
So within my work, a lot of it is laser focused on one moment. So I'll often go into a work with an idea or a theme in mind. I'll start sculpting a fresh face. Maybe I've got an expression caught in my mind that I really want to get to. And I'll start blocking that out as quickly as I can at a scale that I can understand. And the moment that that scene is explorable and that I can, when you hold your hands up and you're like, oh, look, I'm framing a picture. The moment you can do that in VR, I feel like I know where I'm going, or I can find, oh, this is an interesting angle, or if only this person's arm was a bit different, I can resculpt that and bring that up. Uh, there's a big process there where you're just in the room and you're filling it up and just making it. What does it need to feel alive? What does it need to tell people that this person is lost? What does it? What does this? What does this person's expression need to say to tell a story? And then my movement comes in with everything. You can't avoid it, really. It's my imperfections as a human are recorded in every brushstroke. The way I draw something might be completely different to the next person, purely because of our physiology, let alone any type of skill, which is what I find really interesting. And that's why I try to create so messy, to really lean into that and show people, hey man, like, this is like the finger painting, or not finger painting, like the messy splashy art of 3D.
Right. And with so much art, it's the imperfections sometimes that really give you insight into the person behind it and the artist and what makes them unique. So, there's a lot to be said about just letting that process happen and not being too rigid with it.
It's really true, man. I couldn't put a value on or high enough on what artistic language is to an artist. It's so important, and those imperfections sometimes can be what define you.
And I have to say on some of these, because I know you had mentioned that you're doing, sculpting now as well and stuff with resin, so not just in VR, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I can actually check my screen on it if you like.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great.
That's okay. So I've moved into. Actually, I've been working on it for like a year and a half. Um, Taking 3D objects and 3D printing them is a workflow that exists. Bringing VR created 3D objects, which are, as messy as my work is, has been a real pain in the ass. But eventually, I got to a point where using resin printers, I could get my work to come through them with an amazing amount of detail. Um,
And you're using that as kind of to augment the experience of virtual reality, or its own separate identity and piece.
I guess this kind of comes back to what we were speaking about earlier, where you constantly have to answer who can see this art and how can they see it, and what does that mean for the art itself. So branching into different medias is like putting not just a new frame on your work, or oh look, it's the same image but it's different. If you have a picture above your bed, it's going to give you a different feel to if it's in your bathroom. So when I think about moving my virtual and my digital work into physical, it's an opportunity to give that work in a different context, for people to maybe experience a different way. And that's something that I'm really excited about exploring at all times in any media.
Very cool. I gotta be honest with you. Sometimes I can't differentiate, and I'm looking at it and saying, "Is this, a VR render, or is this something that was printed out?" Because it's just so well done.
Thank you very much. I wish I could say the same. Um, I could see it a mile away, but
Uh,
yeah.
well, from my eyes, and I'm told that you should have streaming capabilities now if you'd want to show us something.
Yeah, I can do a screen. Is there a chance I can get video? Because I've got this sculpted piece right next to me.
Um, I think it's because of the number of users that we have in voice.
Uh, there's a way around this.
But I think if you have it playing on a specific window and you select it with screen, we should be able to see it.
All right, there you go. How you going?
We can see you.
Hello. So, just to show you guys, this is some physical work, and most recently, one that I just shown in Melbourne over the last weekend. Looks a little jittery, so I'll try to be as smooth as I can. But yeah, these are all VR sculpts from Untitled Brushwork and Gravity Sketch. Don't knock it over. But yeah, it's really cool to be able to do stuff like this, man. Yeah, like I said, it's an opportunity to put things in a different context. Yeah.
Is that mounted on a skateboard or something? I can't tell what that is.
Yeah, that's correct. So like that, this show was born in mid-April last year. The best time to organize anything to do. I don't know if you guys are around, but basically the show was called Decade, and it was all about using the skateboard as a canvas and celebrating the culture around that, and also the artists around Melbourne. So everybody got a recycled skateboard and were given a few weeks to dress it up in any way that you liked, or to do whatever you liked. And yeah, it got delayed and delayed and delayed, and it almost made a whole year until we finally had our show. It was great to see so many friends and artists I haven't met before, and everyone was just so stoked to be able to show something finally. Yeah.
Very cool. And I'm kind of taken aback by just kind of the range of what you have. When I look at a lot of your work on your Instagram and Rarible, and thematically, I get a lot of kind of philosophical exploration themes. And let me know if I'm wrong here, but it looks like a lot of dichotomies, like memories versus breaking apart, beginnings and ends. There's a lot of exploration of like the juxtaposition of things thematically.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I'm a product of a lot of what's going on around me at a lot of times. Like from an art perspective, I feel like because I'm still emerging, but I'm not. Like I'm 33. I'm reflecting on what I've done or where I've been, and I'm just starting something new now. Or it's not just starting. It's been a bit of a journey, but it's it's really easy to get reflective when you grow up as an emo kid in Melbourne.
It's interesting you say that because I thought there may have been some other underlying currents that I could pick up in some of your art. Um, music was definitely one of them. I could tell with the care that you chose certain accompanying music on, some of your videos and some of the projects that you've done. But also, it almost looks like there's a subtle street art element there, whether that's skateboarding or whatever between the fonts and the sneakers and some of your old material.
Yeah, totally. And I think at this point in my artist journey, I'm always thinking about, hey, what influenced me when I was younger? What influences me today? And trying to explore that at its fullest now that I have an even bigger appreciation for art, and that I'm not ignoring it to do something else. Um, like I look at experience a lot, and I talk about experience a lot. And for me, like when I was younger, some of the most vivid experiences were either video games or popping that first Gorillaz album into your CD-ROM and it coming up with like a flash world that you had to explore. And this was like before DVDs, so you'd scroll around the world and find little Easter eggs and things like that. I feel like I never stopped thinking about how amazing that was, and I'm constantly trying to uh, find ways to leave things for people to explore in their own way and decide what that is later.
Makes sense. I've seen you talk um, in other places about really the experience is the most valuable thing to you as an artist, and obviously we don't want to replicate the technology or whatever you were looking at that time, but that experience of excitement of having something new when you popped in that DVD. Can you kind of talk to that philosophy and why that's important to you?
I Yeah, that philosophy is really important to me for a few reasons. Um, Self worth is one of the main drives in any work that you do, right? If your self worth at your job is fulfilling enough, you're going to be happy in that job. Um, as an artist, I discovered self worth when people started looking at my art the way I draw it in VR, and then having their own experience and coming out of it and just uh, either being, I don't want to say they're overwhelmed, but it's like they saw something they didn't know how to say. Um, at one show that I did, I met a guy who actually, this lady comes up to me and she goes, "Hi, do you mind if we we put this guy that I'm caring for into your VR?" And I'm like, I don't know, is he allowed? And they're like, "Yeah, of course." And we set up like a space for him, and they bring in his huge wheelchair, the big motorized one, and we get the runway sorted, and I pop him in, and we wheel him through the space so that he can see as much of it as we can, and his hand is just shaking the whole time. Uh, and I'm kind of concerned at that point. But when they take the headset off, his carer starts reading out what he's trying to tell us, and he's talking about all the colors he can see and all these things. And it was amazing. Like for me, I was just standing there and I was gobsmacked that like I realized, oh my goodness, like. This person might not have experienced this before, and I might not have ever been able to communicate with them in any way. um, I would have just got out of the way so his wheelchair could get through. That would have been the extent of our interaction. And I realized through art, people can have their own moment, and I love being a part of that. Um, Sometimes you get letters from people that describe the most wild memories and dreams and stuff that they have after they look at your work. And for me, that's everything for me now. I couldn't not think about fulfilling that for another person. It's I don't want to say it's addictive, but it's incredibly humbling, and it's just a drive where I feel like I have something to give, and there's people out there that may connect with this in their own way. Just don't know.
Yeah, that's really what it's all about, making that connection. And there's no better compliment than that, really. I'm sure that experience to you was more valuable than any amount of sales or numbers that you could have accumulated. So when you're resonating emotionally, um, that's when you're really onto something, and it's rewarding and it makes you want to do more.
Definitely. And it's, yeah. And at the core of that, like you realize, well, wow, I can provoke conversation, and I can, you know, I dream about it a lot. I want people to be able to go, did you see that? Yeah, it was amazing. Oh, I did this and this. And I want someone else to feel like they have a counterpoint to say because they experienced something completely different with the same work. That would be my goal as an artist right now, at least.
So you talked about really setting out with a specific goal and then working towards it and letting it evolve. How long does it take you, number one, to kind of get inspired and have a project that you want to work on? And then number two, once you start it, the process is this, do you have a big archive of half done projects that you work on when you get the inspiration, or do you find that it comes quickly for you?
Yeah, inspiration, getting inspired. It's an interesting question because how do you get inspired? You decide like are there people out there that go, I'm going to get inspired today, and then they go out and and they're like, wow, look at this leaf, and
Right.
that's enough. I'm not sure. For me, I do my best to stay really reflective of the world around me, and that means I have to participate in the world. So um, I just get my inspiration from everyday things, or really grand things that happen around me, or the other people that are close. My process itself is actually it's pretty quick. Like if I could just sit still and stop experimenting, I would be so productive. But um, but alas, like I insist on elevating all the time. I've got it written everywhere around my studio right now, and it's just um, I try to bring those ideas, fulfill the creative need, and then I see an opportunity to expand my skill set, and then I start chasing that way. So I might spend longer on work these days than I used to. Uh, but yeah, like a VR work can come together incredibly quick purely because of the way you're making it, right? If you're moving around the room, you can and you'd be done in 2 hours, and then maybe even your render would take longer than the work did. Um, but yeah, how do you put a time on inspiration or life experience? I'm not sure how that factors in.
Yeah, I find personally two things. Number one, the minute it becomes an objective for me to do something because I have a deadline or it's for a specific project, I get challenged then with the creative process because it seems like a task instead of something that's
Yeah,
just coming naturally. But on the flip side, what happens is, like you're saying, I have maybe 30 or 40 half done projects because I start doing something and think, oh, this is cool also, and that's cool also. So being able to rein that in is a special skill set. And like some of the comments in the chat are saying, you seem incredibly productive, despite what you're saying. This is a lot of great content that you're putting out here.
it's look, I don't have a healthy work life balance. Um, I do not recommend working as much as I do, but um, I feel it's necessary at where I'm at the moment. Um, and we haven't even spoke about the NFT scene yet. It's such a busy place right now, and it's very easy to get swallowed up by it. So, um, yeah, right now I'm working my ass off, but I might slow down at some point if I pump
Right.
in.
Well, I just found what you do so interesting that I really wanted to take some time and kind of talk about what makes you tick and what it is you do because it's just so unique. You're really at the
No, that's okay.
forefront. You're really at the forefront of a lot of this stuff. So, thank you so much for coming on. But speaking about crypto and the NFT art space, how did you find your way to the scene? Were you already involved with cryptocurrency, or did this come as a byproduct of the art you were doing?
I don't really come from crypto, so my lead into the crypto art world was through some people I was sharing studio space with, um, and they were working on ways to blockchain work through websites, and they have like it's like Squarespace but for crypto and blockchaining work. And we'd have like these massive like show and tell nights once a month up at the other studio, and there's about 30 of us in the building. And like I'm sure everybody in this chat will know like how hard it is to talk about blockchain without losing half the crowd.
Right,
And
right.
I was one of those people, man. I didn't see it until I saw it, and they were showing me, and it really lined up with the question that what we were speaking about earlier. Again, is how do people get my work, or how do I explore it, or how do I share it with people? And that became a discussion that we kept having again and again. And for some reason, I'm the stupidest person alive. And I was like, they're trading art between each other for 30 cents. I'm not doing it. My work takes me like 3 weeks. I'm not putting it up for 30 cents.
Right.
And my goodness, was I wrong. But eventually, David from Known Origin found me, and he found VR art too, and he's a massive fan of that. And he invited me on, and I finally kind of jumped the gun, and I was like, right, let's do it. I had to learn how to turn my videos into GIFs, which was a massive task in itself. And then at that time, it informed my decision to look into still image as well. Um, and that was purely a product because I needed to be able to fit in the space.
We're glad that you're here. I was just thinking
So
about
am I.
I was just thinking about kind of the medium that you're in, and the most impressive is the actual VR experience. And I would assume that would be a little bit more difficult to get in front of people or get support from galleries and whatnot.
Um,
At least
yeah, I mean,
at
they're
least at
coming
that point in
around.
time, right?
Yeah, at that point in time, and like, um, my studio is across the road from ACMI, which is a digital gallery, and I've been to them so many times, and I'm like, hey man, I'm right here, and I make VR stuff. Let's bloody do it. And they like, even they can't see it sometimes. It's really hard um, to sell VR without sounding like a jingle word. Um, but like these rejections and they're all opportunities to get better at sharing what you want to make.
Right. And especially with, you value that experience and building that experience for the end user, um, or rather the person that's, viewing and having the experience with the art. What are your thoughts on, the kind of emerging capabilities? Because we really don't know all that we can do yet, but, leveraging the smart contract to have more interaction.
I think it's amazing. Um, yeah, I can't wait to see what people create again and again in our scene at the moment. It's just it's absolutely beautiful to watch, and it's absolutely daunting to hear about people's progress where mine's been a bit slower. Um, but yeah, like I'm working on a VR project at the moment, where hopefully we all finally get to live that daydream that I share when I talk about my work, about being in it and having a moment. Um, and I'm hoping to bring the NFT scene in a way that's organic and kind of meaningful as well. I don't want it to just be something. Oh, look, you got your name on it. Like it's got to be more than that.
Right. There's places like Crypto Voxels and Decentraland. Have you spent any time in there or explored it?
I love it. I love what everyone makes in crypto voxels. I think community is really the most amazing part of some of those platforms, especially crypto voxels, because in crypto voxels you have your own culture and you have accessibility. Like you can just throw that link to anyone and they can just jump in if they're on a phone or a laptop or something. It's so awesome. And then you can go, hey man, you went to a digital gallery today, or I was in someone's hotel. Like it's so weird and awesome.
Right. Yeah, and we're just seeing, what's going to really be capable with, the tie-ins now. But it's interesting. A lot of artists we talk to may have, standard visual art, and they're thinking about what they can do to bring things into VR. And you're already here. You're at the forefront of what they're aspiring to do. I think I saw on one of your posts on Instagram or somewhere where you were installing like AR installations in the real world, like at a certain location. If they had the glasses or they knew, they would see this crazy thing. But just we're not at the point where the technology is really ubiquitous now.
Wow, yeah. Um, so this is one project I've been working on for a while, and I really shouldn't be talking about it, but basically, um, I'm hiding things around some cities and not just my own, where an NFC chip, which is like what you use for PayPass on your phone or whatever, when you're tapping off and on public transport, using that inside tiny sculptures and then hiding them to leave digital graffiti in real world places and making sure that they can only be viewed in that area is something I'm really passionate about. And it kind of links to my street culture influence. Now that I'm buddies with all these street artists, I'm like, it just got me ticking. I'm like, oh man, how can I do this? And
Right.
and it comes to experience again. Like, can you imagine like bumping into a digital installation in a street that you've known for tens of years and then seeing it in a whole other way? You'd be like, when did this get here? Is it been here for a long time? Has it been here for a short time? I really like that idea. And
Right.
capturing that moment of time as an NFT as well is something that I'm looking to develop and deploy alongside some of these digital experiences in the real world. And I'm just it's just something that I've been working on the side, man. I'm really excited to develop that idea with a few other people and stuff too.
Yeah, the chat just got pretty hype about that. So I think
Yeah.
everybody
Well,
thinks.
like, yeah, I mean, like, oh, fuck, I just tell you, it's like, basically, what if you find one of these things, right? And in that creates an NFT of that moment in time of what that digital installation is. And then what if the next person that finds it, it degrades just like real world art does? And then, like what if this art has a digital lifespan as well? If we start playing with that, and maybe we start playing with the influence of the audience, like if they experience it and in a bad way or at a certain direction, maybe the captured art is a different way. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of little cool things there that I think people are going to have a lot of fun with when I tell them it's in their city.
Wow. I was going to ask you about where you had tied in some AR elements to a physical piece. I think it was that it was a print that you had done, and I think you could scan the signature and would call back to some of the metadata and stuff. But you just took it to a whole nother a whole nother
Man,
stratosphere here. So all of our minds are blown.
whatever you see on the top of the deck, mate, there's always cards underneath it.
Right, right. And I think I saw where you were talking about that, and you said it was important for you that when you incorporate that it's literally for an experience and not just for, some people do it just for a trail of the investment and seeing, how the data ties back to the artist. And so, props
Yeah.
to you for being so thorough with that vision, even with the perspective stuff that you're talking about here.
At the end of the day, man, like I'm a crypto artist, whether I like it or not. And I can't afford to just say, well, if the NFT scene doesn't work, then I've got my career waiting for me outside of it. I'm all in, man. Like I'm here for real art and real progression and experimentation and to be a part of it, man. I don't have the privilege of a team of marketers behind me or anything like that, man.
Right. And I think you talk about that at some point and basically said that, it's important that people can self-advocate and make noise and find that balance, right? Because, you want to focus on the art and you want it to be genuine, but by the same token, people aren't going to see it unless, put in the effort to the
Yeah.
next person.
It's like the first hurdle every artist that I speak to has, in that you you need to learn to speak to your art, and if you can't, you have to accept that people just aren't going to get it all the time. Sometimes you just need to hold someone by the hand and walk them across the road. And for the artists themselves, finding, hey, what's my voice when I talk about my art? What do people hear from me? Or you know it had it, yeah, it's just a really important component of growing yourself as an artist, if you want an audience. um, it's literally one person at a time at any given time. So when I learned what works with me in terms of trying to achieve that, uh, things were instantly easier.
And by the same token, that's great advice and that's stuff that a lot of people need to hear. Anything else you would tell to new artists coming into the space? We have a lot of people in our community that are just learning about NFTs and wondering how they can, become part of the scene. Having gone through that progression and obviously stayed very true to your art, what are some pointers you'd give them?
So if I was starting in the NFT scene right now, I wouldn't blame you for feeling like shit when you see all these celebrities showing up right now and thinking, far out, I might be too late. The thing is you're not. The goal for you as an artist right now is to be in the room, be present, and participate as much as you can. Every little opportunity will usually lead into another. Like I'm talking to you right now, right? You, the whale community know about me from an opportunity before that and an opportunity before that. You just don't underestimate how much those little ripples are good for you. And don't worry if you're not bombing the pool straight away. It's just like there's a lot of people behind a lot of the big numbers you guys see flying around. It's totally human to feel like a speck, yeah, like a one grain of sand, man. But that's all you need to be. You just focus on you. Don't compare yourself to others, and measure your success on things that really matter.
Great advice. I know I've also seen you say that people really need to try to stay true to themselves and don't compromise their artistic vision to follow trends because that's just going to lead you into a sea of um, being similar to everyone else. Really, do what you do well, continue to hone your art, and the attention will come
Yeah.
to you.
Or if you're gonna take the trends, man, like use it, make it your own. Like you can follow a trend and and you can own it at the same time. But it's a very delicate balance between imitating and owning it, I guess.
So I was just going through some of your listings on Nifty and on Super Rare and whatnot. And I know that you also had some recent collaborations as well, right? You did a hybrid audio visual art piece with was it with Monster Cat?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, Darlington Mike actually contacted me on Twitter, and I didn't know who he was. I just answered it because it had a blue tick, and we were just talking about art and stuff, and we really got along. And eventually, he's like, "Oh, do you want to do a collab with Monster Cat?" I'm like, "Who the hell's that?" But I was already across the line to work with him because he was such a nice guy, and we both just had the same opinions about music and art and all that stuff. So yeah, they really got behind me to give me an opportunity to make a set of art with the assurance that it was going to go out. Like those guys, they all handled the marketing aspect of pushing that drop out, and just let me take their work for 2 months. And I was like, they gave me all these references for lore and things in their world, and I was like, cool, this is great. Yeah, I'm gonna make it bigger. This is like, and I took it, and I probably pushed my luck. If it was client work, I would have been fired, I'm sure, because I took the brief and I absolutely I just made it my own. Like, you can't, yeah, even I'm pretty bullish about it. Like, you can't not see that and know it's not me. Know it's and not know it's me. So yeah, that was a really cool experience collaborating with a brand. And I guess halfway through that, I realized, holy shit, like, I'm just a crypto artist, and this is a big company coming into our scene. I need to do this right. I want to set a bar where there's still a 50% split between the artists involved, and things like that. And yeah, that all went really well. And of course, like, Nifty drops right now are just insane. So that's a absolute blessing to just be a part of that. Like, oh man,
Right.
we talk about earlier where it's really hard to get VR ideas off the ground or into galleries. Well, like, things like those drops have put me in a position where, like, I don't give a shit anymore, man. I'm making it. I'm making the thing. I'll self fund it. That's how much I believe in whatever I'm doing. So it's really cool.
Definitely. And speaking of collabs, are there any things in the works that we could look forward to coming from you and some other creatives, or any projects that you want us to keep an eye out for that should be coming soon?
So I've got a few hints for people. Definitely working with someone who's a crypto art OG, and they are known for using their own contracts. I'm also working on something today, which you guys will see really soon if you own certain works of mine on Nifty Gateway that we may or may not have just been talking about. Wink.
Okay.
And these are like kind of small pieces for me on my end. But yeah, the next big project is installation based. That'll be shown in Montreal mid this year, hopefully.
I'm about a 6-hour drive, so I think I'll have to go do some hunting up there. And I do know that another one of our resident moderators here is a stone's throw away. So you got the hype train going already.
No pressure. I'll have to make it worth 6-hour trip now.
Yeah,
I'll just write that down.
6, not 60. That would be another story. I'm sure.
6. Okay.
I might still make it. Yeah, it's about a 6-hour drive. And then
I reckon I could get there and back
in less time. But yeah, possibly
in 60 hours easily.
Oh yeah, 60 for. Although with Corona, I don't know if my plane will ever take off. We'll see. And then One of the questions we had from the audience was if you could list, what was one of your favorite projects that you've worked on, or something that was very meaningful to you, what would you say?
Um, my first artistic collaboration was with Frenetic Void on async art, and we really didn't talk much through that whole process. We kind of decided, hey man, this is how we're going to make this, and I think this is what the workflow looks like. And he's like, yep. And then, and then we barely spoke. We just sent each other stuff back and forth, and kind of met up in the middle after a week or two. And that was incredibly rewarding. It was like, you talk about your artistic language, but sometimes you don't really get to see it like other people see it until you see it communicating with someone else's artistic language. And we made a work that was without a doubt his and without a doubt mine. Yeah, that was a really beautiful experience. And since then I feel like I could talk to Frenetic about anything, even though we really didn't speak that much at the time.
Right. Just harkening back to, your MO about the experience being, the real value driver there, and obviously working with him and what you guys experienced together made that bond.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, a lot of value in doing. Um, I said, I went to uni and I did nothing with it, but if it's one thing I learned from there, it was your ideas aren't worth shit until you do something with them. So yeah, the doing aspect is always something I find incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, I took 6 years of French, I remember nothing, so that
Oh,
a
jeez.
poor choice also. I thought that Spanish wasn't gonna be valuable, but French was a world language. I don't have a great track record on making those decisions,
You're gonna have a
but
blast at the Olympics.
yeah, if I remembered anything besides swears, which I don't. Um, a couple more questions from the audience while we still got you. Someone had asked, you talked about your video game inspiration, and some of your pieces like the Summoner or the Cold Clan remind people of video games. They had asked, how long does it take you to create a masterpiece like those pieces?
I wouldn't call them masterpieces, but um, it's to create a work that is complete for people. When they look at a work, I really believe you need to capture the element of presenting an idea, giving it a moment, and letting people explore what that idea is. When you're naming something like the Summoner, that piece there is like, or the Last Cold Clan, you're putting people in a vantage point in the world, and then you're showing that world to them. And really, I walk you halfway, and then you walk the rest of the way there. You're given a character to kind of look at. What's the character doing? There's tombstones throughout that whole scene, so they're the last Cold Clan. I've primed you with words as well. Um, it's a snowy biome. Was it always that way? There's these big shapes that curve like ribs. Is there a monster there or something? Uh, Things like that are all elements that go in, and none of them are correct, and all of them are correct. So like, yeah, a master. When people say things like, "Oh, how do you make a masterpiece?" It's like, well, you made the masterpiece. I just made the art.
Right. But, knowing that you evoke that type of feeling from them, um, I guess says that, it's working. You're evoking an emotional response. So again,
Totally.
amazing stuff, but I think they definitely could see the video game influence. I'd play this game for
Oh
sure.
man. Yeah. So I actually used Dreams on PS4 to create those works.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's a inherent video gameness to it, and I try to leave that there on purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
And like many say, just whatever you got, be good at using it and you can make some amazing stuff. The person that asked
Thank
that
you so much.
question, jump in there with your etch a sketch, whatever you have, and and you can turn out some great stuff too. Um, One of the questions was, what are some issues that need to be addressed in the crypto art space that you feel can be improved?
Um, when I look at communication in the NFT scene, I was always worried. Why do we live on Twitter? It's Twitter's not the most healthy spot for artists to be in or to communicate with their collectors. And over time, you realize the scene needed to live on Twitter to grow. It's like constant promotion. Um, but at the same time, I feel like it's taught us to value certain types of art that indulges what works on social media. And I think that has its place, but I'd also love to see tools that encourage more thoughtful communication or more access to between collectors and artists. Um, if someone bids on my work and I'm asleep, early on in the NFT scene, I'd lose bids all the time because purely because of time zone, and I wasn't able to talk to them and like, hey man, I'm actually just in bed right now, or and I can't accept your bid, but thank you. Things like that was just like it was silly hard for no reason. And as the scenes got bigger, like there's just more people to lose in the confusion. So I think clarity with communication is something that's still to be found. And there's a thirst for it. I mean, look at Clubhouse right now. If you love talking about yourself, mate, get in there. It's so it's so busy
Yeah.
because people want to talk, man. And Twitter is one way of communicating, but I think there's room for others as well. Look, we're on Discord right now. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. I think Whale Shark hasn't slept in about a week. He's been in such high demand on there. We actually had to start our own room that debuted this. So,
Yeah,
but
there you go.
I think you're right. It's like if you're coming from the outside and you don't have a background in crypto or NFT specific lingo and jargon, it can be a bit like drinking through a fire hose. Like it's a lot
Definitely.
to try to take in, whether you're an artist or someone that likes to consume art or wants to experience it. So, that's one thing that we're working on here because as more and more people are coming into this scene to experience it or be part of the ecosystem or creative, we need to be able to be less insular and more inviting, and that will, the tide will raise all boats. So,
Definitely.
um, I 100% agree with you, but I do believe that Twitter was a byproduct of it just being a small community, and obviously now has grown, and we're on this.
Yeah.
And where did
Yeah.
you? So that ties to another question. Someone asked, "What were your expectations for NFTs before the rise to where it is today?"
Um, my expectations. Um, Geez, what was I saying a while ago? When I first, my first NFT was minted, and I made my first sale just after Trevor sold that first piece for like 80K or something. Everyone was like, minds were melting. And then the next day, he bought my first super rare work for $30. A cheap bastard. Um, my expectations were all I have to do is be here and continue my career. Um, and at that time, I was super wary that I couldn't go all in unless I could support myself and the people around me. So, like, um, I've been constantly preparing for life without NFTs early on. And I feel like my expectations for the scene were still to be found. I think we get caught up a lot in the art and we forget about why NFTs and smart contracts are so amazing, like, and what we can do with them. I don't think we celebrate that nearly enough, and the mainstream still has to learn about that. I mean, like, the mainstream get here and they're like, Nifty Gateway, woo! but like there's so much more, so much cool stuff, you know, like uh, I'm excited to see what they pick up next and how that's going to inform what people decide after, what they're going to work on or develop after that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And especially now that we have, you have things where, gaming are making assets that are in NFTs seamless to people with things like NBA Top Shots, Nifty for its art focus, and the type of people that like to use that to flip or whatever and focus on that aspect. They have made it easy for people to just use a credit card and not have to go through MetaMask and use ETH. So I think as a lot of these different things continue to develop and more exploration happens with the smart contracts and different things that you can do, uh, you know,
Hmm.
the
Like,
limits are boundless.
yeah, I would love to see NFTs used in a thoughtless way, in that you don't have to think about the NFT aspect of it. It's just there, and it's part of verifying what you're interacting with is legit, or where it comes from, or things like that. You know, is your crypto art fair trade? I'd love that. You know, and the same with
Right.
like the discussion around the ecological impacts and stuff like that. Uh, when we navigate our way around that and how we best find solutions there, I'd love for people to just not think about the NFTs, but go, oh, how does this piece of work impact the ecosystem? Can I see that straight away? Things like that, I think, would be really great.
Yeah, and you know what? You just kind of answered the thing I wanted to kind of leave this interview with was, what's your vision of what the next progression is in this space and how we get there? And I think you very eloquently put it, making things seamless and then continuing to push the envelope. And it sounds like certainly that's something that you're already looking to do. It has me booking a hotel in Montreal right now.
I hope so, man. If no one else goes there, can get you to take some photos for me, mate.
Yeah, I definitely will go. So I know we're past the hour. Thank you for staying with us today, and thank you for showing us your incredible work and talking to us more about your process and everything that you do.
I really appreciate everyone here giving me a little bit of your time this morning, man. I said earlier that connecting people with your art is literally one person at a time, and being able to sit in a room with you this morning is a beautiful opportunity to do a few more than one person at a time. So I really appreciate that, man.
We appreciate you, and I'm sure everyone will be keenly waiting for some of those secret things that you alluded to.
Oh, so soon, so soon.
All right, you have a great day.
See you guys.